Now when we decided to put this car buyer's guide together, the first thing we had to do was list down all the cars available out there. And that's when we realized that Joe Public Car Buyer has over 100 models to choose from. Ranging from the cheap Tata Nano or Datsun Go all the way up to the Bugatti Veyron that's going to cost you 14 crores or so. You'd have to be richer than the goddess Lakshmi herself to buy. So my crack research team and I decided to narrow it down. Times Now was only giving us a half an hour to complete this guide. We were going to have to get a little more selective. We decided to focus on where the bulk of the action was. More than 95% of all cars purchased in India range from the 1 to 20 lakh rupee price brackets. And that's what we'd focus on too. Also out there in the real world, no one really bothers with silly things like subcompact or B segment, so we went in with a classification that we think you care about: money. We've broken cars down according to their prices, and if you have between 1 to 5 lakh rupees to get your car on the road, here are your options. It might be at the bottom of the car heap, but poor sales notwithstanding, the Tata Nano, now in the twist avatar, is an interesting car to own, especially if you're young and live in the city. It was already simple enough to use, but now you've got power steering and redesigned pedal settings. New insulation means that NVH levels have also gone down, and the interiors have seen a refresh with a brand new centrally located information cluster, housing a digital clock and fuel and temp gauges. There's all new fabric on the interiors and door panels, which also make the interiors look less cut price. The powertrain remains the same, so you're still getting the same 25 km per litre 34 bhp engine. Like we said earlier, it's a smart choice if you are young and do all your driving in the city. This year saw a new entrant in the sub-compact game. Nissan introduced the Datsun Go into the market, looking to grab a slice of that massive low-end pie. It's the largest car in this segment and also the most powerful, coming as it is with Nissan's 1.2-litre petrol engine that's putting out 69 bhp and with an average extra-urban mileage of about 17 to 18 kmpl. Because it's the largest car in this class, it's also the most spacious, with enough space to seat 4 very comfortably and 5 in a squeeze. Suspension is also better than the competition, and ride is not bouncy as some of the other cars in this class. Where the Datsun does expose its shortcomings though are in the interiors. Compromises have been made on the insulation, so there's a lot of road noise coming in, and the dash and the driver interfaces feel tackier than what you'd normally find in a low compact car. We're moving on now to hatchbacks that cost a little more. The normally action-packed hatchback segment this year was a little cold, save for one launch, the Hyundai Grand i10. This car, which made its worldwide debut in India, is essentially the new global i10, though the made-for-India version is 100mm longer than the one sold in Europe, and hence the Grad tag on the boot. You've got the petrol engine carry forward from the existing i10, but you also have a new 1.1-litre CRDI diesel that's putting out 70 bhp and 164 newtons of torque. It's not fast by any standards, but the electric power steering and light clutch make driving in the city, its natural habitat, a very positive experience. Unlike most Hyundais, the Grand i10 has a great suspension system. Ride is comfortable and it does not have that baby animal wobble that you'll experience in other small Hyundais. Where this car does shine though are the interiors. Legroom is more than adequate. If you spring for the top-end version, Hyundai is throwing in kit that you'd only find in higher-end sedans. The dashboard uses some nice soft touch plastics. Add to that Hyundai's service reputation and you've got a car that will work very nicely in the city and suburbia, where you have no need for performance at all. Toyota too decided to add a little flash to the somewhat staid and boring Etios with this cosmetic crossover that they introduced a few months ago. Called the Etios Cross, it does look cool now somewhat. You've got a matte black plastic band that beefs up the bumper area, adding some amount of bulk to the car. And in the vein of off-roaders everywhere, you're also getting some skid plates in an aluminium finish that look alright. They've also added roof rails, a spoiler on the back and 15-inch diamond finish alloy wheels. The engine and transmission and suspension systems remain the same, but the interiors have changed somewhat with black plastics and a beefed up entertainment system. The premium hatch segment might have only seen a couple of updates, but that's because the action was happening in the compact sedan space. Hyundai resurrected the Accent brand by sticking a boot onto the Grand i10, and Tata Motors, the company that created the segment, resurrected itself with the all-new Zest. Now the Zest is not a funked up Indigo or a facelifted Manza. This is an all-new car and Tata stuffed it to bursting with new technology. Primary among it is the Revotron, the all-new 1.2-litre turbocharged petrol engine, which will be the standard petrol engine. Power figures are pretty decent. This engine's doing 90 bhp and 140 newtons of torque. You've got 3 engine modes to choose from, which is a little gimmicky because when we drove the car we noticed no clear difference. Tata Motors cars do have a bit of a reputation for horrible suspensions, but the setup on the Zest is quite impressive. Whether you're driving flat out on the highway or crawling through some broken village road, this car will handle it quite nicely. Exterior design is sharp, but big props for the interior, spacious with decent amounts of leg and headroom. But the standout function is the audio and infotainment system that you'll find on the top-end version designed by Harman Kardon. This is a piece of kit you'll normally find in luxury German cars. There is still some skepticism about the Zest considering Tata Motors since the past few years, but we'd advise at least a test drive. Hyundai too reactivated its accent brand, ensuring that people pronounced it right this time by changing the spelling. Like all small sedans in this category, the Accent is essentially a Grand i10 with a boot, so save for the rear end, the car is essentially the same as the hatch. Under the hood, you've got a petrol and a newish 1.1-litre diesel option doing 71 bhp, which is slightly more than the hatch. Driving this car in the city feels nice, as there are few things better than driving a high-torque diesel engine at low city speeds, but then you're completely losing all your juice out on the highway. With the addition of the boot, the wheelbase has been lengthened, giving you a lot more space in the rear, enough for 5 to sit decently with good amounts of leg and headroom. What you can also look forward to is the sheer amount of goodies you get with the higher-end versions, things like reverse cameras and cool glove box and multi-port audio systems. It might not be the best car to drive, but it might be the best small sedan to own. If you'd like your sedan a little larger, might we suggest this, the 2014 Honda City. It's an all-new car, but what's even newer and more improved about it is it now comes with a diesel engine. It's called the iD-Tech with power figures of 100 bhp and 200 newtons of torque. What Honda have done with this engine is geared it to work best in the city, and that means the car responds beautifully in bumper-to-bumper traffic without those turbo bumps that can be a bit disconcerting when you're just getting from one red light to the next. The City used to have a reputation for being a bit harsh suspension-wise, but that's been rectified in the new car, and the City flattens most potholes with grace. Issues with the new City? The steering feels a little vague, and then there's that noise. This is an engine that's not shy about being a diesel, and everyone will know it. Another thing that Honda sorted out with the new City are the interiors. You're getting a lot of kit, and the rear seats are spacious and comfortable, but the design of the dash might put a few people off. But not too much evidently, because it still sits at the top of the charts. This might change soon. Because Maruti has entered this space. India's largest car company has a habit of dominating most of the segments it enters. In the premium compact segment with the all-new Ciaz, it looks like it has just what it needs. Powertrains are shared with the Ertiga MPV, so you've got a 1.4-litre petrol and the tried and tested Fiat-derived 1.3-litre diesel that's putting out 89 bhp and 200 newtons of torque. This is a car tuned to driving in the city and for maximum economy. It claims to be the most fuel-efficient car in this class, and because of its super lightweight, performance isn't compromised too much. You're also getting comfortable ride and decent handling. But what is the calling card of the Ciaz is going to be its size. It's a full half time larger than the competition like the City, which translates into an unbelievable amount of space and legroom. Features wise, you've got everything that you'll need: a Bluetooth touchscreen audio system, climate control and a reverse parking camera. The Ciaz also has the best quality Maruti interiors we've seen, with chrome ring buttons and soft touch plastics. With the Ciaz, Maruti's got mostly everything right: spacious, large, economical and a killer price. Welcome back. Now, if there's one thing that Indian car makers have realized, is that what really flies here are miniaturized versions of larger car designs. So you've got mini SUVs like the Duster and the EcoSport, and mini MPVs like the Evalia and the Ertiga. Honda too is joining the mini MPV party with this, the all-new Mobilio. The Brio has been a successful platform for Honda. Besides the small hatch, it's also spawned the Amaze compact sedan, and now in the guise of a mini MPV, the Mobilio. Under its hood, it's got the powertrains from the Honda City. Step on the gas and what's responding is either a 1.5-litre iVTEC petrol or the 1.5-litre iD-Tech diesel. Both engines are torquey and powerful and a joy to drive. We test drove the diesel that's doing 100 bhp and 200 newtons of torque, and power delivery is flat as there are no surprises in the form of sudden surges or turbo kicks. Putting that power to the road is a 5-speed manual gearbox that for a diesel has a very light clutch and is responsive in any gear, which will be good news when you're driving in the city. If there's another space where Honda cars do well, it's handling, and considering that this car was based on the Amaze and the Brio, the Mobilio is not going to wallow around. Drive the Mobilio on the highway or even around corners and things won't get hairy. The wheelbase has increased by a little more than 24 centimeters over the Amaze, and that is a significant amount, but the difference in handling is almost imperceptible. And then there's the way it looks. When you think of the average MPV, what you're thinking of is a bread box. The Mobilio, on the other hand, while not pretty or anything, comes somewhere in the middle. The wedge shape and the flare on the bodywork ensure that this car doesn't look slab-sided, and that's good enough for us. The interiors are also bright and airy with decent amount of space all around, though the third seat would fit children or small people the best. The mid-size sedan space might be a dead zone in the car world right now, but it was brightened considerably by this, the all-new Skoda Octavia. This is a car with almost legendary status. It was the first modern, moderately priced luxury car that Indians could dream to own, and now the Octi is back, better than ever. This is an all-new platform and an all-new car, but the engines carry forward from what we had in the Laura, a 1.8 TSI petrol and a 2-litre TDI diesel. The new Octavia truly is a great car. If you choose to drive it yourself, the stiff suspension and flowing power will keep you entertained. If you're going to be in the backseat all the time, the ample legroom and the plush ride will keep you happy. Our only issue with the Octavia isn't with the car itself, it's with Skoda, that does have a reputation of being a bit sloppy on the service. One of the most anticipated launches this year has to have been of the all-new Mahindra Scorpio. It's an iconic car for most of us growing up in India because it was one of those cars that created the idea of a luxury SUV. A car that could go anywhere and handle our roads, but with air conditioning, a stereo and nice seats. The Scorpio is one of the most ubiquitous cars around, with the shape and form that everyone's familiar with, which is why it was time to change, to start afresh. The new Scorpio might share a body shell with the older model, which is why you might think that this car is an update. But according to Mahindra, nothing has been carried forward from the outgoing model except the doors and the roof. What you're going to find under the hood though is the same 2.2-litre M-Hawk engine that was also in the outgoing Scorpio as well as the current XUV 500. Power output too remains similar at 120 bhp and 280 newtons of torque. But here's the new part. The terrible older gearbox has been replaced, and the new gearbox is a vast improvement over the older model. Where the new Scorpio has improved the most though is ride and handling, because this car has a new chassis as well. It's still ladder on frame, so there's going to be that residual body roll, but it's much stiffer and at no point does it feel like you're about to somersault sideways off the asphalt. The Scorpio was always an aggressive looking car, but this new one just looks angry, with the chrome flecked grille, the new projector headlamps, the scowling LED eyebrow and the bumper that looks like it's definitely hiding something. It does look very striking and modern, but also to our opinion a little overwrought. Also changed are the dashboard, steering wheel and door pads. Rounded shapes have been replaced by meters and buttons with edges everywhere. The blue lighting scheme goes well with the grey interiors, and if you spring for the top end model, you're also getting a touchscreen central console that features your stereo, parking assist and navigation. You're also getting tire pressure gauges, climate control. The rear seats have been redesigned, pushed further back and have become longer and wider, offering more comfort. It's also going to seat 5 adults quite comfortably. We really like this car. It's one of those cars you just feel nice driving around in. Another car you will enjoy driving is the all-new Skoda Yeti. This isn't a new car per se, but more like a midlife reboot, ironing out all the kinks from the original. The 2-litre diesel engine carries forward and is such a sweetie. 140 bhp and 320 newton meters of torque with a 0 to 100 time of about 11 seconds, which is sharpish for an SUV. The high-strung gearbox in the older car used to cause a lot of stalls, especially at lower gears and lower speeds, but that's been taken care of to some extent. What set the Yeti apart from all the other small SUVs out there was its fantastic handling. Throw in an all-wheel drive, an ABS and ESP, and you've got a car that you could use to traverse Antarctica. Another big change with the Yeti, one of the reasons why people did not really appreciate the older car, was because of its somewhat quirky design, but that's been dealt with in the new model. The bug-eyed look is gone, replaced with somewhat bland if smooth sophistication. This is a car we'd endorse any day of the week and twice on Sundays, but for the niggling issue of after-sales service. Now I know when we started the show, we said we'd be focusing only on cars that cost more than 20 lakhs. But then the next two just had to be included. Following the trend of taking a full-size design and just making it smaller, here's the Audi A3 sedan and the gorgeous Mercedes GLA SUV. Now I know in a lot of places you'd hear this car being described as the baby Audi, but after having driven it, I can safely tell you that the A3 isn't a baby anything. It is smaller compared to the other Audi sedans, but dimension-wise about the same as a Corolla or an Octavia. The engine isn't a baby either. Under the hood you've got the same 2-litre diesel that you'll find in the A4, the A6, the Q3 and the Q5, but here it's been tuned to put out 141 bhp. Now the thing is that when you're driving a German car, the implicit threat of the four rings is that you're driving a fast car. This is a car that fulfills that promise. Hit the gas and things start happening. You're off without any turbo lag, any transmission jumps, just smooth, clean power. Transmission comes from a 6-speed S-tronic gearbox that's quite impressive in the way how quickly it reacts. And if you wanted to react faster still, you can always switch to manual mode and use the rocker, or switch to sport mode, which changes the dynamic quite a bit. Ride and handling too are balanced pretty well. Ride is almost flat, and if you do hit something hardcore like a deep pothole, you're not going to bounce around and have your head hit the ceiling. On sweeping sections of the highway, you can enter a curve on the road very quick, and you're not going to have to worry about flying off the highway. What you won't like though is a smallish back seat. Compared to some of the lower end sedans we've showed you so far, what you get with the A3 does seem a little niggardly. Backseat issues aside though, we really do like this car because it's a great blend of style, performance and fun. And then there's the Mercedes GLA, one of the best looking cars in the Indian market right now. At its heart, the GLA might be a crossover based as it is on the same platform as the CLA sedan and the A-Class hatchback, but it doesn't look like one. It looks like an SUV, and that's what's important. You've got two engine options to choose from, a diesel and a petrol, and we drove the petrol, a 2-litre turbocharged unit that's doing a solid 181 bhp. Floor the accelerator pedal and this car is going to hit 100 in about 8.5 seconds, which makes it pretty fast in our book. And even under normal driving conditions, while pulling away from the traffic in the city or giving a trucker the finger on the highway, the GLA has got all the get up and go that you need. The 7-speed DCT transmission could have been a little better though. Gear shifts are not as effortless as you'd like them to be, and sometimes, especially when gearing down, can feel a bit chunky. The GLA also handles bad roads pretty well, considering the large 18-inch wheels, the considerable wheel travel and the soft suspension. It's only when things get really dire, when the road is fully cratered and shell-shocked, that the suspension does feel a little crashy, and it can get a bit loud. As far as the handling is concerned, it does get floaty when the road undulates and does lean in a bit if you attempt a hard corner, but it's not a great failing. There is a decent amount of ground clearance and some roll is bound to happen. On the inside too, the GLA keeps up with the stylishness. Considering it does share a platform with the A-Class, the interiors are very familiar if you spend any time in the Mercedes hatch. For one, everything is top quality. You definitely get what you pay for. And when you get into the GLA, you're going to feel pretty good. Where you will be a little disappointed though is the rear. Legroom in the back isn't the best, and driving long distance in this car isn't going to be the start of some fun times. The GLA drives well and handles decently, but where this car becomes a star is the way it looks and the way you will feel driving it. If for you the biggest part of the Mercedes experience is reveling in the halo from the 3-pointed star, then this is the car for you. And that was our show for this week. We've had fun making it. We hope you've had a good time watching. Remember, you can catch this entire episode online at timesnow.tv or youtube.com, and do follow us on Twitter @TimesDrive for program schedules and updates. Till next week, drive safe and have a happy Diwali.